All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to today's webinar all about Supplements 101 with Fullscript. We are so excited to have you here today. And I'm really excited to introduce you to Dr. Eric Viegas, who's going to walk us through today's topic. So today we'll be talking all about understanding the basics of dietary supplements for promoting patient health. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Brittany. I'm from Practice Better. Maybe you've caught me on a webinar before. I am the Ambassador Program Manager and Business Success Coach. So before we dive into the topic today, just a couple housekeeping items for you. We will be recording this, as you know, so if you can't stay the full hour, no worries. We will be sharing that with you so you can replay and watch this over again. And we love your guys' engagement. So if you have any questions on today's topic, please feel free to put them in the chat. We'll be keeping an eye on that through the next hour, answering as many as we can, both in the chat and pausing for them throughout today's webinar as we can. But let's dive into a quick introduction onto our co-host today, Dr. Eric. Dr. Eric is a licensed naturopathic doctor in Ontario, Canada. He's also the Medications Operations Manager for Fullscript's Integrative Medical Advisory Team. Dr. Eric is passionate about education and has worked with some of the top supplement brands, practitioners, health food stores in the industry, and he has educated practitioners and their staff on the quality, the benefits, the risks, and the research behind many common supplement ingredients. And he's here today to share his expertise and knowledge with our group. So he's going to run us through everything today. You can see he's got some slides up, and then at the end, we'll show you a really brief demo on how you can take the Fullscript integration and use it within your workflow within Practice Better. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera so we can focus on the slides and Dr. Eric's presentation here, and you can take it away, Dr. Eric.
Thanks very much, Brittany. And thanks everybody for joining us today to talk about supplements. So as Brittany mentioned, we'll be talking about Supplements 101, understanding the basics of dietary supplements for promoting patient health. So let's get started. So a brief outline of what we'll talk about today at a very high level. We'll talk about defining dietary supplements, dietary supplement regulations in both the US and Canada, choosing a supplement, developing a protocol, and some very exciting additional resources that you can use in your practice to up your game. So what is a dietary supplement? So according to the United States Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act, or DSHEA of 1994, a dietary supplement is a product that's intended to supplement the diet, right? Always diet first. You can't out-supplement a bad diet. It contains one or more dietary ingredients or their constituents. It's taken by mouth as a pill, capsule, tablet, or liquid. It's labeled on the front panel as being a dietary supplement or something equivalent like a vitamin supplement. It does not include topicals, injectables, or inhalants, and it differs from functional foods. So dietary ingredients here include vitamins, minerals, herbs, amino acids, and other dietary substances that we'll cover in a little bit more detail in just a bit. But I wanted to point out that supplements differ from functional foods. Functional foods are foods or beverages that are intended to provide benefits beyond basic nutrition, such as reducing disease risk or enhancing a physiological process. And that would typically be something like a probiotic yogurt or a plant-based beverage fortified with vitamin D. So as I said, diet first, supplement second. There are challenges with obtaining all required nutrients from the diet, and this generally answers the question you might hear from a lot of patients: why can't you just get everything from your diet? Here are some examples of why that is. So a poor quality diet, right, sets the stage for poor nutritional outcomes. That could be something like the standard American diet, which we know is high in refined carbohydrates, low in overall nutrients, and low in fiber, while being high in saturated fats. Even, people who are on vegan and vegetarian diets, keto diets, without the proper navigation, you can run into some nutritional issues. Also, there's been a decline of nutrient levels associated with modern agriculture in our soils. So a good example here is magnesium. Magnesium is a very important mineral that's associated with many biochemical pathways in the body, and most notably metabolism of vitamin D. So, nutrients work well with one another to help in that respect. Additionally, you might be at a stage in your life where you have increased nutrient requirements. This could be something like during adolescence, during pregnancy or lactation, and for those who are high-level athletes. Additionally, there are increased metabolic nutrient loss phases. That would be for someone who's dealing with a critical illness or dealing with aging, as we all are. And also impaired digestion and nutrient absorption, right? There are a lot of people walking around with digestive issues. That means that they're not getting as much nutrients from their food as they could. You can think of people that are suffering with IBS and SIBO as examples here. So why recommend a supplement? So as mentioned in the previous slide, dietary inadequacy might be at the forefront of someone's issues, but there could also be medication-induced nutrient depletion. For anyone that's looking for a helpful resource on nutrient depletions, you can actually check out mytavin.com, MYTAVIN. That is actually a helpful resource where you can input medications and it'll give you a report of potential nutrient depletion. So just to name a couple here, for any patients that are on metformin to help control their blood sugar, they can run into nutrient depletions with vitamin B12 and folic acid, as well as patients on statin medications coming into your practice with complaints of muscle pain, muscle fatigue, usually due to a depletion of coenzyme Q10. Additionally, you can also see nutrient deficiencies on lab tests. So while someone might feel fine, the lab testing that's done to look at different nutrients like B12, like zinc, like magnesium might show something different than how they feel. Additionally, someone might be taking a supplement to address a symptom based on a supplement mechanism. There's a category of supplements also termed like prokinetics, meaning that it helps to normalize bowel movements, and that can be really helpful for someone who's dealing with constipation. There are also additional benefits of nutrient intake above the dietary reference intake or the recommended dietary allowance. Those higher doses of nutrients have actually been shown to reduce the risk of disease or chronic illness. Okay, let's chat briefly here about dietary supplement regulations. So as I mentioned, in the United States, dietary supplements are regulated and defined under the DSHEA of 1994. This established dietary supplements as a subclass of food distinct from pharmaceuticals, and thus they have different requirements for efficacy standards. So something to note here, all adverse events, all serious adverse events, all potential label claim violations are required to be reported to the FDA, and the FDA has the authority to remove products from the market and or to initiate recalls. They also set requirements for new dietary ingredients, right? New and novel ingredients that have not been on the market before, and current good manufacturing practices, which are sort of like the baseline of quality needs that basically establish documentation, hygiene, and that kind of thing. So the FDA mainly functions as a post-market surveillance organization. Again, they respond to adverse event reports, label claim violations, and they hold manufacturers accountable to uphold consumer safety. In Canada, things are a bit different, so Health Canada acts as a barrier to the market here. So natural health products, dietary supplements are known as natural health products in Canada. They're regulated under the Natural Health Products Regulations of 2004, directly under the Natural and Non-Prescription Health Products Directorate. That's a long acronym, NNHPD, which is a division of the Health Products and Food Branch of Health Canada. So they basically monitor manufacturing, packaging, labeling. They verify that importing sites have site licenses. And interestingly, in Canada, before a supplement actually gets to the market, it needs an 8-digit natural product number. And all of the dietary supplements or natural health products available in Canada are listed in the Natural Health Product Database. You can actually search that, Google that, and you can go to the Health Canada website, type in the name of a product, and you'll get all of its details. They also have standardized monographs for hundreds of ingredients that then dictate the health claims that can be made. So Health Canada acts as a barrier to the market. They evaluate label claims, they evaluate research, and they give those approved products NPNs. Now, the US actually might be following suit soon in that respect, because the FDA has proposed their mandatory product listing database, which is somewhat similar to the NHPD. Okay, now let's chat about some fun stuff. Key supplement categories. So we'll touch on nutrients, herbs or botanicals, hormones, probiotics, and other common supplements. So nutrients are compounds required by your body in order to sustain life. They're grouped into a few different categories here. So we have essential nutrients. These are nutrients that have to be obtained through the diet. Unfortunately, as human beings, we can't make our own vitamin C, right? So we need to get that from our diet. That also includes other minerals like zinc. There's also non-essential nutrients. So as you might have guessed, those are nutrients that we can manufacture in our own body if we don't obtain them through our diet. Some examples here include amino acids like arginine and glycine. And then there are macronutrients like carbs, fats, and proteins. I think, probably a lot of people on the call are familiar with that. And then micronutrients, which are your vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients. Here's a slide with some examples of nutrients. So we have our magnesium here, again, a very helpful cofactor in over 300 enzymatic reactions in the body. Helpful if you're thinking about things like blood pressure, depression, metabolic syndrome, and migraine, some robust research in those areas. B12 or cobalamin, this is really helpful for enzymatic reactions, methylation, essential for our DNA and red blood cell formation. And lycopene, which is a phytonutrient typically found in fruits and vegetables like watermelon and tomatoes. It functions as an antioxidant and it has roles in preventing oxidative stress. All right, herbs and botanicals. This is one of my favorite areas. It's kind of like making potions for your patients. So these are plants, they're used in herbal medicine. It's always important that you're aware of what plant parts are being used for that specific remedy, because depending on the part of the plant used, you can see examples here like bark, flowers, fruit, leaves, stems, seeds. You'll have different plant constituents in those parts. And each of those constituents will have different therapeutic actions. So a nice thing about botanical remedies is you can really personalize them for your patients. So therapeutic actions here include things like adaptogens. So those are ingredients that can help in the short term for someone to adapt to a high stress situation. Analgesic, which is specific to dealing with pain. Anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, expectorant, meaning that you can help to get stubborn mucus out of the airways. And those come from plant constituents. I'll point out one here in the list, anthocyanins. So anthocyanins are those rich blue purple colored pigments that you see in fruits and veggies. And they have actions on the cardiovascular and immune system. So a good example of a supplement rich in anthocyanins is elderberry. Another great thing about botanicals, and generally supplements nowadays you can find it in these different delivery formats, but you can get them in powder, capsules, liquid tinctures, essential oils, and dried parts to use to make teas. So here are some examples of herbs and botanicals. Ashwagandha, I would say, is a very popular adaptogen right now, helpful for dealing with chronic stress. Some research around infertility, strength training, sleep. Curcumin, also very popular. You've probably heard of curcumin. It's a constituent of the spice turmeric. So it has an anti-inflammatory effect and antioxidant effects. And ginger, I think most people here are familiar with ginger. You probably cook with ginger and turmeric maybe. But ginger is getting some more attention for its analgesic effects, so for helping with pain, as a result, being included in many protocols to deal with dysmenorrhea. Hormones, now there aren't too many hormones available sort of like over the counter for supplements in Canada, but there are more available in the United States. So hormones are chemical messengers produced by the endocrine glands. They act on distal tissues from those glands. And hormone therapy typically involves the use of bioidentical versions of plant extracts. So those mimic the chemical structure of your own hormones or your endogenously produced hormones. So supplement ingredients include exogenous hormones, things like melatonin, vitamin D, and nutrients that upregulate endogenous hormone production like magnesium and your vitamin B6. For probiotics, this is a huge discussion to have around probiotics, but I wanted to give you some tips here. So generally speaking, probiotics are live microorganisms, which when administered in adequate amounts confer a health benefit of the host. You can find them in single strain or multi-strain formulations. They'll contain bacteria, bacterial spores, yeasts, and they're measured in billions, tens of billions, hundreds of billions colony-forming units. They're found to interact with and modulate the microbiome, digestion, immune function, metabolism, and the nervous system. So the table at the bottom here refers to probiotic identification by genus, species, subspecies, and strain. I always encourage practitioners, be aware of the specific strains that you're using, as well as the clinical studies associated with them. Don't rely on borrowed science. That means, make sure that the product that you're recommending or prescribing to your patient has clinical research on that full product, and it's not just extrapolating to single strain studies. Other common supplements. So I touched on coenzyme Q10. Again, a nutrient that's depleted by statin medications. Some great research here for fertility, high cholesterol, and skin aging. Collagen, everyone here is probably familiar with collagen. I think it's gained a lot more mainstream recognition lately. Most people think of it for beauty, for hair, skin, and nails, but there is some robust evidence for use in osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, and type 2 diabetes. Enzymes. So we can think of digestive enzymes helping to break down our food and helping us to assimilate our nutrients. But there are other, systemic proteolytic enzymes that help with pain, tissue repair, and inflammation. Fish oils, again, something I think that's very mainstream. Typically, you'll see fish oils broken down into EPA and DHA constituents. Helpful here if you're dealing with patients that have pronounced cardiovascular disease, cognitive decline, or rheumatoid arthritis. Medicinal mushrooms, that one is also very mainstream now. You'll find your mushroom coffees, your mushroom hot chocolates. Some evidence here in coronary heart disease and for immune function. And finally, prebiotics. So these are sort of like the food for our probiotics or for a lot of the organisms that are in our gut. Some good evidence here to maybe think of avoiding prebiotics in irritable bowel syndrome, using it for metabolic syndrome and for polycystic ovary syndrome. All right. Now let's talk about choosing a supplement. This is a little bit more geared towards talking about supplement quality, which is a topic near and dear to my heart. So I hope that you can get some takeaways here in terms of what to look for when you're thinking about a high quality supplement. And then we'll touch briefly on how to read a supplement label. So our goal at Fullscript is to improve quality literacy to help you and your patients make better decisions regarding their individual quality priorities. So why care about quality? I think generally when practitioners think about quality, they think safety for their patients and they think treatment outcomes. So quality in terms of safety here could be testing in terms of identity, right? Is what's on the label actually in the bottle? It could also be contamination concerns, right? Do these companies conduct relevant microbiological, heavy metal analysis to make sure that there's no contaminants in the products? And then for outcomes, you're thinking about things like, therapeutic dose, right? Making sure that, unfortunately, some retail products don't have as high of a dose as some professional line products. So again, thinking about the clinical research here. There is a degree of exclusivity when it comes to high quality supplements. Generally, professional lines that have been around for some time and have an industry reputation with them have high quality. Usually only practitioners can access and sell them. So it does offer a revenue stream for some practitioners that they can choose to keep or maybe reinvest into their practice. And there's also, very importantly, an environmental and social responsibility, which I think probably doesn't get talked about enough. So, there are great supplement companies out there and third-party certification organizations that verify, the environmental practices and the social practices that go into making your supplements. There are brands out there that have vertically integrated their supply chains. They have blockchain sourcing so that you can, scan a barcode and know exactly where your supplement has come from. So that's generally, the advice I give to practitioners. You want to think about the journey of your supplement from seed to table or seed to shelf, so to speak. Think about the farming, the harvesting, the manufacturing and processing, the storage, the distribution, and of course, the clinical research that goes into that product. Because unfortunately, if you choose a poor quality product, that will generally lead to poor outcomes, and it will erode trust in using supplements and in integrative medicine. So, when you're asking yourself some of these questions on the slide, why care about quality? Why is it important to me? Why is it important to my practice? Why is it important to my patients? That's, something to think about, because quality in my mind combines, personal needs, professional needs, and practice needs. So, there's a lot to dig into when we talk about quality. It is on Fullscript to provide you with those assurances. So I'd encourage you, check out the quality assurances that we touch on at fullscript.com and in our app. But here are some basic foundational concepts to become familiar with when assessing the quality of a supplement. So look for a CGMP seal. That's sort of like the foundational requirement in my mind. And it is a requirement from the FDA. So, making sure that, these brands are keeping their facilities clean, they have standard operating procedures, they have documentation for everything, including testing. Make sure that there's accurate ingredient sourcing, identification, validation, and processing, as well as labeling of allergens. So the FDA does require that the 8 major allergens are listed on supplement labels. So keep an eye out for that. Look at source claims, right? Where these ingredients are derived from, and also look at excipient or non-medicinal ingredients. Sometimes there might be ingredients in there, like maybe magnesium stearate that a patient is not reacting well to, that it could explain why they're not getting better. There's also ethical implications here. So I mentioned, third-party certifications. There are a ton of third-party organizations out there. Thankfully, in the Fullscript app, you can actually filter by third-party organizations. So I would encourage you to take a look at some of those organizations. You'll find one that aligns with your values and goals. And it's one of my goals actually to publish a third-party certification guide for all of you. So stay tuned for that. That's a resource that we're working on. Additionally, relevant scientific evidence supporting the ingredient effectiveness, absolutely, that's paramount, and manufacturer transparency at every step of the supply chain. Another thing about ingredient sourcing, I think Chef's Table put it well when they said you can't make a good meal with poor ingredients. Again, think about environmental and social stewardship, what matters to you. Ask companies if they're willing to disclose where their ingredients come from and what quality controls they have in place to make sure you're getting a high quality product. As for distribution, I would say beware of third-party distributors, e-commerce platforms, big box retailers that don't have a supplement quality program. There are a lot of fly-by-night brands out there. There are repeat offenders that show up in the news all the time where you hear about, a supplement being contaminated with a medication or contaminated with heavy metals. These are some of the factors to think about with distribution. So there's packaging, labeling, segmentation, storage, incredibly important if you're thinking about temperature and humidity sensitive products like probiotics, right? How are these being stored? How are they being shipped to you? Does this third-party distributor have guarantees for expiration dates? Or are you going to get a product that you want your patient to take for the next 2 months that expires in the next 2 weeks, right? That's not ideal. Additionally, think about here transportation. So conveyances cleaned between deliveries, measures taken to avoid moisture, as well as, of course, documentation to prove that all this is going on behind the scenes. Just a note here about Fullscript and Emerson's distribution centers. Now, those distribution centers are NSF certified. That stands for National Sanitation Foundation. This is another third-party certification organization that I would encourage you to look up and learn more about. They're an independent third party that verifies quality controls are in place for all of the factors here on the slide.
Dr. Eric, before we move on, I just have a quick question for you. So regarding distribution, I know as practitioners, it can be really common for clients to say that they can find the same supplement on Amazon, and you made a lot of good points, but what would you suggest to our practitioners that are battling with some of those objections? Like, what would you say that they can say to their clients on, even if they can find the supplement for less money, why would they go with Fullscript?
Yeah, I would say be cautious about that. While that third-party distributor does have sort of a foundational or sort of a bare bones quality program, there's no guarantee that there are no counterfeit products on there. If, for example, they end up with a product that's not the same as what they're looking for, or what you've prescribed, that can be an issue too, right? They're getting the wrong product, they're getting the wrong dose, they're going to come back to you in, however many months till their checkup, and you're kind of back to square one. So I would say be careful there. It also leads to less engagement with you versus on the Fullscript platform where you know exactly what they're taking. You can give them their script. Everything's kind of in line there. You give them all their lifestyle and exercise recommendations. So I would say be aware of what's going on there. And yes, while some supplements you might find kind of cheaper on Amazon, I would be weary about going with a brand name you've never heard before. And again, you get what you pay for, right? There are professional lines on Fullscript that you are paying a bit of a premium for, but that's going into these robust quality programs that these suppliers utilize.
Yeah, great points. And I think that kind of segues us nicely into kind of a part two of that question is a lot of clients, they're used to going to big box stores and finding supplements for really inexpensive. So how would you like really succinctly just say kind of the key difference of why you're paying that premium?
Yeah, you're paying for therapeutic dose, you're paying for clinical research that goes into the product, you're paying for higher quality excipients, right? You maybe don't want certain food colorings or dyes or titanium dioxide as an excipient in the product. So yeah, there's a lot to consider there.
Yeah, thanks so much.
No problem. So how to read a supplement label. There's a lot going on this slide. I just wanted to zero in on a few key takeaways and feel free, I know that you'll probably get a copy of these slides after today's webinar, so feel free to look at these details. But some things to point out: serving size. It becomes very important on a supplement label in terms of patient education. Be very clear with your patient, how much they're taking, for how long. Serving size would be number one in terms of important considerations. Number two is in individual forms and ingredients. So ingredient form does affect bioavailability, right? Is it a magnesium oxide, citrate, glycinate, threonate? Depending on the form there, it would affect the bioavailability to your patient. And I also want to call out proprietary blends. I believe this is more with our US audience. These are unique to manufacturers. You'll see on the slide here, each label actually has a proprietary blend, and it's followed by that little cross symbol you see. So you don't actually know the amounts of each ingredient because it's not listed. And there are mixed feelings on this from practitioners because you don't really know what the patient is getting. Some final safety considerations here: adverse effects. I think there might be some misunderstandings with consumers, with patients when it comes to supplements. Supplements can potentially have adverse effects. Active and excipient ingredients may be associated with that. You need to do your due diligence and research safe levels for ingredients and combinations. And again, in the United States and in Canada, severe adverse events should be reported to the regulator. Allergens. So I mentioned there are 8 major allergens that are required to be labeled. The FDA does recognize that this isn't an exhaustive list. They've actually opened up to draft guidance, meaning they're open to feedback from practitioners and consumers about the 8 major allergens and how to expand them, because you'll see here: eggs, fish, milk, peanuts, shellfish, soybeans, tree nuts, wheat. You can maybe think about sesame being included there too. So be aware that these are required to be on the label. Third-party certifications can actually provide that additional assurance. So I mentioned NSF earlier. There are gluten-free third-party certifications as well. Now, in terms of interactions, yes, supplements do interact with drugs. But something to be aware of as well: if you're a practitioner that's doing a lot of lab testing, supplements can interact with lab tests as well. So, it's important to be aware of that. Now, for testing, the FDA does require companies to conduct identity testing, but those standards can be chosen and developed by the companies themselves with no obligation to publicize their standards. So again, third-party certification companies are really important here to provide those extra assurances. Here are just a few of them on the slide. Again, I would encourage you to take a look at maybe our in-app filters, look at those third-party certifications that you can enable, search them up, learn a little bit more about them, because again, you'll find that organization that aligns with your values and goals in practice. And it can make it that much easier to select a high-quality supplement. Finally, research. This is probably one of the most important factors in the quality discussion. Manufacturers are not actually required to submit scientific evidence of safety and efficacy to the FDA. And research is necessary to inform safe and effective supplement use. So the great thing about Fullscript is we have that in-app resource section for you. You can look at protocols, you can look at our ingredient library, you can look at white papers and guides to get a lot of that research easily accessible. As for a quality checklist, these are factors that help ensure patient safety and lead to better health outcomes. This is something that we adhere to at Fullscript. Okay, now we're almost at the end, so thanks for bearing with me. We're going to talk about developing a protocol. So I'm going to touch on evidence-based decision support, individualized care considerations, and then we'll kind of close here with a case study example. So evidence-based decision support or evidence-based medicine is a combination of three key principles. So it involves locating and applying relevant scientific evidence, integrating patients' values and preferences in therapy, and using your clinical and expert judgment to optimize patient outcomes. So some individual care considerations here. As I mentioned earlier, quality is an individualized care consideration. So maybe ask your patient what they value in their supplements. You do want to think about allergies. You want to think about dietary restrictions, dietary intolerances, concurrent conditions, if there might be interactions here, lifestyle interventions, other supplements or pharmaceutical medications, and again, patient preferences and health goals. So our first case is Greta. Our first and only case is Greta. So Greta's coming into your practice with symptoms of numbness in her left foot, frequent urination, daytime fatigue, and increased thirst. So she has been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and she is medicated on metformin. So what would Greta's integrative prescription look like? So she's been encouraged to continue metformin. Also, the practitioner did their due diligence, looked up any potential depletions that could be influencing her symptoms. And of course, metformin depletes both vitamin B12 and folic acid. So she was put on those supplements. She was also put on berberine. So that's something to touch on here too. So berberine, this is an ingredient that does have a hypoglycemic effect. So there is the potential here to interact with her metformin and have an additive effect to bring down her blood sugar. Chances are, it's not being as controlled as well as it could be. So that's why this practitioner has opted for berberine. Practitioners also put her on a Mediterranean diet to help control those blood sugar levels throughout the day. Encouraged her to get 8 hours of sleep per night. Easier said than done for a lot of people. And also advised that she engage in strength training workouts 3 times per week to help with balance and to help with overall strength and mental well-being. All right, so that brings us to the end of Supplements 101, but I did want to touch on a very helpful resource for all of you in the call today, and that's Fullscript Academy. So this is a brand new free resource for everybody on the call today. We actually have consolidated content into 3 main streams. So we have continuing medical education eligible courses from our industry partners, IFM, ANA, and Home Hope. We also have continuing education courses. So if you liked some of this discussion today, I have recorded and put modules up for Supplements 101 that actually goes into quite a bit more detail. So please check that out. And we also have a resource library where you can check out, things like our patient handouts, our protocols, our blogs and webinars, and our industry research. So again, this is a free resource right now. It's quite a small experience. We're looking to test it with practitioners like yourselves to get, some really important feedback. What do you think of the user experience? What do you think about the topics that are covered, and what future topics would you like to learn about? So next steps here, if you would like to take the Supplement 101 course or explore other resources, you have a link available in the slide deck. And we'll send the slide deck and links after the webinar. So just a few other additional resources here in the slide deck, a link to our Knowledge Center where you find a whole host of resources to up your knowledge on integrative medicine, a link to the Office of Dietary Supplements, the USDA's dietary supplement page, and Health Canada's NNHPD. All right, I think it's demo time.
All right, awesome. Thanks for that. That was such great information. And now we'll just quickly show you, if you are not yet using the Fullscript integration in Practice Better, how you can very easily start to incorporate that into your workflows with your clients. So let me just share my screen here and we'll take a look at the Practice Better platform to kind of walk you through that very quickly here. So most of you, if not all of you, I'm sure are familiar with this view here of your dashboard. So if you are new to Fullscript and would like to get started using the online dispensary, it's really easy to get started. First things first, you'll want to ensure that your Fullscript account is linked to your Practice Better account, and you can do so through going through the third-party integrations. So through the gear icon, we'll just hit third-party integrations. And then scrolling down, we'll see that we have supplement dispensary options here. So Fullscript, I can see that I have mine linked. If you were just doing this for the first time, you'll hit that link button. You'll get a pop-up that will walk you through some really simple instructions to log into your Fullscript account to have those two linked. Once you do that, you can start to incorporate your supplement recommendations with clients through protocols. So for my practice, I can go down to my protocol templates. And templates, of course, are how we are kind of building out that framework of recommendations and the advice that we're going to provide our clients on how they can start to achieve their goals and move the needle with their health. So let's take a look at the gut healing protocol. So this is just kind of the generalized recommendations that I have put together. You can see I've got lots of different information here, but scrolling down, I have a whole section dedicated to supplement recommendations. So this is where I can actually build out a Fullscript protocol right within Practice Better. This is going to create a protocol, one for my client that I can deliver through the portal, but one also through the Fullscript website as well. So you can see here that I've already got a couple of examples built out. I can tell that these are from the Fullscript catalog based on this little icon here. You can see the two leaves. That's saying to me as the practitioner that these are coming from that Fullscript catalog. Once I add something from the Fullscript catalog, I'll be able to also check this box here. So Fullscript will create a protocol when this is published within Practice Better. So the client will also be notified of the protocol being created within Practice, or I'm getting all mixed up, within Fullscript. But let's take a look at how easy it is to add an additional supplement to this recommendation. So I'll just hit the add another button. This will pop up here. So just to note here, you will want to ensure that you're on the Fullscript catalog tab up at the top. And once you're here, you can start to search through your different supplements that you'd like to add to the protocol. So I can search, or I can continue to then filter through the different brands that we have available to us through Fullscript, and continue to filter through with these different drop-down options here. So again, like Dr. Eric said, if I have noted that my client specifically has an allergy, if I'm working to create a protocol specific for them, I can use this drop-down here. Or if perhaps I work with celiac patients and I know that all of my clients are going to need to be gluten-free, I can easily check this box here so that everything that comes up will ensure that it is free of that particular allergen or ingredient. Within Fullscript, I've also set favorites. So this has made it really easy for me to also just access the ones that I've already kind of noted that I use frequently with clients. So I can quickly select the probiotic that I want. It will come up with the recommended dosage, and this is being pulled from the actual supplement label and what the manufacturer is recommending based on their formulation. So I can choose to use this recommendation. It will auto-populate for me based on that. I could choose to change this. So based on your own expertise, if that's within your scope of practice and you feel comfortable to do that, you can do so. You can also set the frequency and duration. So you can say that you want this to, maybe be taken twice a day with breakfast, with dinner for, we can say 1 month, and then you'll evaluate to see if the client has experienced benefit. You can do it like that. And then you have a few different options here. So if you want Fullscript to send a reminder to refill, you can also check those boxes off. You can link it to any condition. So if there's a specific, probiotic that has a particular strain where the research has said it's very supportive of, say, UTIs or, certain ailments, you could list that related health condition here. You could also add any additional information for your clients. So you can, put your own personal advice and recommendations in here as well. Once you have all of that together, you'll press done. So you can see how easy it was for me to add that. Again, I've got that little icon denoting that it is a part of the Fullscript catalog. I can save this here. And what's nice is that when you put together a supplement protocol within your care plan here, the client will also be receiving it as kind of a chart. So it will say that when the client should be taking the supplement with the dosage as well. So let's just hit done here so we can take a look. So we'll preview this so you can get an idea of what the clients are seeing on their end. And when we scroll down here, we can see the supplement chart. So based on the information that you input about frequency and dosage, you'll see that this has auto-populated with this really convenient supplement chart. So the client will be able to kind of have a schedule and keep track. So depending on, the regimen that you have them on, if there's multiple supplements and things can be a little bit confusing about what to take when, this will be really beneficial to keeping things really streamlined and simplified for the client. Okay, so it's as easy as that. So once you have that integration set up, you can start to include those in your protocols, either those templates or the ones that you're further customizing to the client. So once you know and have identified their unique needs, you can go in and kind of adjust accordingly for each individual client. So super simple and maybe something that you're already familiar with within Practice Better, but just wanted to remind everyone of just how easy it is to take Dr. Eric's advice and put it into practice within your workflows. All right, so I'm going to stop that screen share so Dr. Eric can turn his camera back on and we can say goodbye to you as we wrap up this webinar.
Thanks so much, Brittany. Oh, there we go. I couldn't turn that first. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We were so excited to have you on to share your expertise and knowledge. Like I said at the beginning with our group, you're just a wealth of information. So we're so appreciative of your time and your expertise today.
My pleasure. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us. Keep an eye out for the replay and definitely feel free to check out Fullscript if you're not yet signed up and make use of that academy. It's going to be a great resource for you to make sure that you're staying up to date on the latest research and all the information coming through. All right, thanks everyone. Bye.